Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Mohammad Rizki Syabani. I'm from English education major. Today, I would like to share my experience on using AI tools for learning English, especially for improving my speaking skills. In this presentation, I will focus on two main parts. Firstly, I will explain my experience on using an AI tool for learning. Secondly, I will discuss my experience on using ChatGPT specifically for speaking practice, including the benefits, challenges, and my overall opinion. The AI tool that I use the most for practicing my English speaking is ChatGPT. The main reason I chose ChatGPT is because it is very flexible and customizable. Unlike other learning applications, ChatGPT allows me to adjust how the AI responds. For example, I can set the AI to have a cheerful personality, or I can make it more strict and focus on accuracy. Personally, I prefer to use a strict and data accurate style. The reason is simple. I want clear corrections and honest feedback. If the AI is too friendly without correcting my mistakes, I will not improve effectively. So, I intentionally choose a style that pushes me to do better. In terms of how I use ChatGPT, I usually practice by creating conversations. For example, I ask ChatGPT to act as a teacher, a friend, or even a job interviewer. Then I respond as if I am in a real situation. This helps me simulate real-life communication. Sometimes I also ask ChatGPT to correct my sentences or suggest better vocabulary. This is very useful because I can immediately see my mistakes and learn how to improve them. From this experience, I noticed some improvements. First, my vocabulary has increased because I am exposed to new words during conversations. Second, my confidence has improved because I practice regularly without feeling judged. However, I also realized that ChatGPT is not perfect. One weakness is that it is not the same as talking to a real human. Sometimes the interaction feels less natural, and I do not get the same emotional response as in real conversations. Before I started using ChatGPT, I actually had some difficulties in speaking English. For example, I often knew what I wanted to say in my mind, but I did not know how to express it in English. Sometimes I also felt nervous when speaking in front of other people because I was afraid of making mistakes. So, because of that, I did not practice speaking as much as I should. That is why I started looking for a tool that can help me practice more consistently. And that is when I started using ChatGPT. Now, I will talk specifically about my experience using ChatGPT for speaking practice. Based on my previous assignment, which included 7 speaking practice episodes, I found this method quite interesting and helpful. One thing that makes it easy is that ChatGPT is always available. I can practice anytime without needing a partner. This is very useful because sometimes it is difficult to find someone to practice speaking with. Another easy aspect is that I do not feel embarrassed when making mistakes. When speaking with real people, I sometimes feel nervous or afraid of being judged. But with ChatGPT, I feel more relaxed, so I can practice more freely. However, not everything is easy. One difficulty is that sometimes I rely too much on typing instead of actually speaking. This can reduce the effectiveness of speaking practice because speaking and typing are different skills. Another challenge is that ChatGPT does not always push me to respond quickly. In real conversations, we need to think and respond fast. But with I can take too much time, which is not realistic. In terms of what is most helpful, I think the best part is the feedback and correction. ChatGPT can quickly point out mistakes and provide better sentence structures. This helps me learn faster compared to studying alone. On the other hand, the least helpful part is the lack of real human interaction. There is no real emotion, no body language, and no real communication pressure. Because of this, it cannot fully replace real life speaking practice. For example, one way I practice is by asking ChatGPT to simulate real situations. For instance, I ask it to act as a job interviewer and I answer the questions like a real interview. Another example is daily conversation practice. I ask simple questions like how was your day or what do you think about social media? And then I try to answer it in full sentence. Sometimes I also ask ChatGPT to correct my grammar and suggest better vocabulary. For example, if I say a simple sentence, ChatGPT can give me a more advanced version. This helps me understand not only what is correct, but also what sounds more natural. After using ChatGPT for some time, I noticed several improvements. First, I became more confident when speaking English because I am more used to forming sentences. Secondly, I can think faster when answering questions, although I still need improvement. Third, Thirdly, I am less afraid of making mistakes because I see mistakes as part of learning. Even though my speaking is not perfect yet, I can see clear progress compared to before. However, I also realize that practicing with ChatGPT is different from speaking with real people. In real conversations, there is pressure to respond quickly, and sometimes people speak unclearly or use slang. But with ChatGPT, the conversation is more structured and easier to understand. Because of that, ChatGPT helps me build confidence, but it does not fully prepare me for real life communication. So, in my personal opinion, I think both are important. AI for practice and real people for real experience. I also see a strong potential for AI tools like ChatGPT in the future of education. In my opinion, AI already has a big impact on helping students, especially when we face assignments that are difficult or even complicated. For example, when I do not understand a topic, I can quickly ask ChatGPT for explanations or guidance. However, I also realize that this can become a problem if students rely too much on AI. If we depend on it for every task, we might stop thinking critically and lose our ability to solve problems on our own. In that sense, AI can feel like a cheat code if it is used in the wrong way. So I believe that AI should be used as a support tool, not as a replacement for our own thinking. As students, we still need to understand the material and develop our own ideas. So overall, I think the future of AI in education is very promising, but it depends on how responsibly we use it. I think that is all from me. Thank you for your attention.